Welcome back, everybody, and you know NFL draft season is upon us when we're talking about the hog mollies, baby. Top 10 offensive tackles coming at you here, and that means if you're watching this video, you're a diehard NFL fan, man. You understand this might not always be the most exciting position group. Believe me, I know. I just got through 39 player evaluations here, but you know the value and the importance of players at this position, and you understand how hard it is to find guys at offensive tackle that can play at a starting caliber level. So this is a very important video here, trying to find value at offensive tackle in this 2022 NFL draft. So we're going to get into it. I do want to remind you guys, if you want to support my channel and get access to my complete draft board, well, you'll see those full write-ups, the evaluations on all 39 offensive tackles I have graded right now. That list is growing. You'll get more information. You'll get strengths, weaknesses, descriptions on the top 10 guys that we're doing right here. And then, of course, every position group. I do believe if you're a draft diehard, my draft board is the best value that you could possibly find for information on these prospects. And if you respect my opinion, player write-ups and evaluations. So if that sounds good to you, you'll also get exclusive film room content, and you'll support my channel, help this machine go in the process. I appreciate you hearing me out. I appreciate you considering signing up on Patreon, get the Draft Insider package, support my channel, and let's get into the video. That also, I hope you hit that like button down below if you enjoy. So my number 10 offensive tackle is Darian Kinnard out of the University of Kentucky. 6'5", 345 pounds, and 35.5-inch arms. This guy is a moving brick house. His strength is everything you'd want to see at that size. He can move guys up front in the run game, and if you try to bull rush this guy, good luck. He has some pretty serious weaknesses as well, though. His foot speed is well below average. He can lean a lot in pass protection because he doesn't trust his feet. And if he goes against speed, not only will he get beat around the edge because he doesn't get a lot of depth in his kick slides, but he'll get set up on inside moves as well. So there's some issues there in pass protection. But if you want to talk about an anchor and a guy that you can't bull rush, along with a guy that can just move people up front and has the right mentality to run block, Darian Kinnard can potentially become a starter as a 3rd or 4th round pick. Now, one distinction I need to make with Kinnard and other offensive tackles that we're going to talk about here is he's going to be more of a scheme-specific fit. And I am doing these evaluations as a league-wide approach. But if you're more of that spread offense, don't move your tackles a whole lot, as opposed to the play-action Shanahan system where you want these guys on the move, you're running play-action boots where you need to reset the pocket, that's not going to be Darian Kinnard. If you're a team like maybe the Chiefs or the Saints under Sean Payton, the Patriots, where you're more like just blow up the guy in front of you, anchor and pass protection, he's going to be a better fit. So some teams might have Kinnard as high as 4 or 5 on their draft board based on scheme fit, but just taking scheme fit out of the picture, I do think Kinnard is the 10th best tackle in this class. So you do need to consider that, as with any position in any draft, is scheme. So that is Kinnard's fit. You don't want him on the move a lot, but if you're keeping him put, he can become a starter in this league if he can just refine some of the stuff with his footwork, don't lean quite as much, maybe even lose 10 pounds so that he can move a little bit better. But for the most part, he's a solid prospect. He can also potentially slide into guard. He has a very nice ceiling as a guard, but that obviously is a less valuable position. So I think you want to fail him at tackle, and if he sucks there, you move him inside. Think of like maybe a Robert Hunt of sorts would be a decent comparison, though I liked Hunt a little bit better a couple years ago coming out of UL Lafayette, but pretty similar. Okay, my number 9 offensive tackle is Abraham Lucas out of Washington State, who's almost the complete opposite of Darian Kinnard, even if he's physically similar. 6'6", 330 pounds, nice arm length at 34.5 inches, also a very comparable grade with a 3rd to a 4th round mark there. The difference here is Lucas is a much better pass protector and really not that good as a run blocker at all. He has pretty poor play strength. His hands, he doesn't have those hammers for hands where he drives his hands inside and redirects D linemen a bunch. No, he's much more calculated and composed, but I love his technique. He has some of the best pass protection technique in this class. He's one of the more experienced tackles in this class as far as running traditional dropbacks. So he has these long arms. He can land punches accurately on outside shoulders. He'll cut off inside moves. He has very smooth kick slide technique, all of it. I love him as a pass protector, and I think if you are in the third round and you need someone that you can plug in and hopefully just not get lost in pass protection, that's Abraham Lucas. Now, he's not a great athlete, and as I mentioned, he's not a good run blocker. His get-off moving forward is really poor. I alluded to his lack of play strength. He's not really redirecting or moving a lot of people. He just is really good at getting in people's way as a pass protector. So very different styles there. It's going to come down to what kind of guy you're looking for. I think Lucas maybe a little bit less scheme dependent, because I do think he can move a little bit better if you are doing more of the move blocking stuff, though he's not a great guy in space at all, whereas Kinnard's just really bad at it. But there's number 9, Abraham Lucas. And then number 8 is one of my, the guy I'm maybe most excited to talk about on this list, other than some of my honorable mentions that I'll do here after number 7. But Luke Goedeke really stood out to me. I think he was like the 18th guy I got to, so I was starting to get into more of those day 3 tackle prospects where you're just watching a lot of slop, looking for traits and saying, okay, this guy's got a little bit of technique here, but he's got to work on all this stuff. But when you get to Luke Goedeke, he's pretty damn sound, man. Like, you'll see he's above average pretty much across the board. He doesn't have any defining weaknesses other than he's not like this amazing athlete, but he's definitely like quick enough and strong enough to make it in the NFL. He might not never be like this elite guy. He's going to be one of my guys in this class. I love his get off the ball. He plays incredibly physical. He plays low. He plays with leverage. He's tough. He finishes blocks. He's smart. He obviously knows his assignment, but when there isn't work in front of him, he'll go find work, whether that's in the run game or in pass protection. And his technique in pass pro is just pretty solid. Like, he's got fluid feet. He's pretty good with his arms, as I mentioned, like compared to other late day 2 into day 3 prospects. Like, he's got pretty good technique in that area. And I love his flexibility, man, because you can play him at tackle. I think with the arm length, maybe he just doesn't have the traits to be a high-end starter at tackle, but I think he can be a damn good guard as well. And he was even taking snaps at center for scouts at the Senior Bowl. So I think he could be a starting tackle. I feel pretty good saying he can be a starting guard. And even then, end of the 3rd round, 4th round, you know what's an incredibly underrated position in the NFL? Is your 6th man, your swing man, a guy on the offensive line that can play anywhere and just not get lost, so that you don't have to shuffle pieces around. If you lose a guy for a game here, a game there, every team in a 17-game season is going to need to go to backup offensive linemen for the most part. So to have a guy like Luke Goedeke, who's one of the best just swingman pieces I've ever evaluated as far as his balanced skill set, I think that has immense value, even if he isn't a starter, but I think he can be a starter. So he's going to be one of my guys. He just kind of excites me as a football nerd, because I think he's going to play in the league for a really long time and probably be underrated while he does it. So Goedeke's my number 8 offensive tackle. And then number 7, I have Max Mitchell out of UL Lafayette. There's a lot to like about Mitchell's game, but he also has some pretty big weaknesses as well. Now, you want to talk about scheme fit for a second. He fits those wide zone Shanahan offenses. About half the league at this point, if not more, are running that style of system where you want a guy that can fly off the ball, run block his ass off, and a system that will neutralize a potential lack of anchor by moving pockets in play action. So that's the ideal fit for Max Mitchell, because he doesn't have a great play strength, at least in pass protection. He's only 6'6", 300 pounds. He's only got 33.5-inch arms, so longer, more powerful, speedier rushers, they can get inside his chest and drive him backwards. I'm not going to say with ease, but fairly easily. So there's some issues there in pass protection. And he's not like some elite move block athlete. He's just very good. But he comes out of his stance like that. He gets a ton of power from his lower body as a run blocker, and he plays with leverage. So I have no question that in a wide zone system, he can come in right away and be a starting caliber run blocker for you. It's just some of those issues with pass protection. His technique is fine. I would say as a pass blocker, he's pretty good with his hands. He'll hit that outside shoulder. He can give up inside moves, though, and there's just some work to do with his footwork and his hand placement in general. So he's not perfect there, but again, I think in a system that protects him a little bit more in pass pro, he could maybe start for you right away, and you hope you develop some of those things. So that's Max Mitchell, Shanahan-style system, 3rd, 4th round pick. And now I'm going to take a break from my top 10 list and get into some of my honorable mentions. There's always a few people in the comments. And by the way, do comment down below what you think of my list. But there's always some people that are like, what about this guy? What about that guy? Did you watch this guy? As I mentioned, I've done 39 offensive tackles, so the answer is probably yes. And I got 4 guys here I want to talk about just because I wanted to include them. Just hit a couple notes on them. But again, you can get that full draft board on Patreon if there are other players that you want to know my opinions on. So we got Spencer Bierford at number 14. I just felt like including him. I feel like in the day 3 crop where you're mostly talking about, maybe backups and a lot of practice squad guys, I think Bierford can come in and give you replacement level pass protection right away. He's really good with his hands. His technique is solid. It doesn't sound great, but seriously, when you get to day 3 of the draft, it's hard to find guys that you can put in right away and they won't get demolished. I don't think Bierford will get demolished unless he's going against the Rashawn Garys and, super lengthy power guys, because I think he will lose to power at the next level. But number 13 and number 12 here are the literal reason I needed to do this honorable mentions list. We'll have plenty of talk as we lead up to the draft about sleepers and my guys. These 2 guys will be consistently mentioned among them. So Zach Tom out of Wake Forest brings a lot of that positional versatility that I talked about with a guy like Luke Goedeke, whatever, in a guy that can play anywhere in the offensive line, really solid technique, a different player, but similar concept where it's like you might not never start Zach Tom, but this is a guy that played center for his first 2 years at Wake Forest, stepped out to left tackle, and was really pretty good. I love his technique. He very clearly watches film of NFL guys, and he's just good with his hands, his footwork. He's got a wide base. So you're talking about a guy that can play either side of the line, across the board. Anywhere you want to plug him in, I think he can hold up day 1. He's a really good athlete, so he's going to be a really good fit for those wide zone style offenses as well. Undersized guy, doesn't have great play strength. Again, probably never going to be a superstar. But I'd feel pretty good drafting him 4th, 5th round, which is a lot higher than a lot of people are going to have Zach Tom. And then Jordan Tucker was like the 39. He was the last guy I did, honestly, on my offensive tackles. I got a few more to do, but he was the 39th guy I evaluated. And at that point, you're talking about undrafted free agents, not even priority free agents. Like this is the bottom of the barrel. And I'm like, whoa. Why is no one talking about this guy? He's 6'6", 340 pounds. He brings all of the physical benefits that you like at that size. Like he's got a good anchor. He moves guys up front. And he's not bad in pass pro. Like he's got pretty solid feet. He's pretty good with his hands. Obviously, a lot of work to do there. I'm not going to act like this guy's a perfect prospect, but there's something to work with there. And what really stood out to me is he's a smart freaking player, man. Like, they could not get him confused on stunts. He finds work, whether that's in pass pro or he gets in space in the run blocking game. His general awareness was really good. So I don't get why more people aren't talking about Jordan Tucker. I had gotten through like a bunch of undrafted free agent guys, and he just popped. I was like, no, that guy looks different, and he plays different. So he's going to be one of my guys for sure. I'm comfortable spending a 4th, 5th round pick on Jordan Tucker, and I think he's probably going to go undrafted. So then we also have Nicholas Petit Ferrer. I think he's a guy that a lot of people are going to say, how is he not in your top 10 list? Ohio State, really good athlete. he's a complete work in progress, man. The upside's very clearly there. He's got some of the best play strength and get off in this class, but when you talk about pass protection technique, leaning too much, giving up inside moves, poor usage of his hands, just not latching as much as he should with his hands, like he just has a ton of work to do. I see the upside there, but he's just so far away. He just missed my top 10 list. But let's get back to number 6 now. And we just did some my guys. And number 6 is going to be not my guy, someone I'm definitely lower on than the public discourse about him right now, and that's Bernhard Raimann out of Central Michigan. And, I'm ranking him above everyone I've talked about so far, prospects that I like and I'm intrigued by. But the discourse right now with Bernhard Raimann is this guy's a first-round pick, he's a franchise left tackle, and I just cannot get there with him because I am very worried about how he's going to hold up in pass protection at the next level. Now, people point out that he converted from tight end. He's, I believe, from Australia, so he hasn't always been playing the football. But he turns 25 in September. So how long are we going to wait for that development cycle? As far as his technique goes, there's a lot of work to do. His footwork isn't great. He doesn't step inside well to cut off inside moves. He leans quite frequently because he doesn't trust his technique. And the worst of all is his body, his frame suggests to me that he's going to continue to struggle with power at the next level much worse than he did playing at Central Michigan. So he's 6'7" with 33-inch arms, which again is right at that threshold. Now, I think you can survive at 33-inch arms. Rashawn Slater, for example, was right at that last year. But you got to remember, Rashawn Slater is compact. He's like 6'4". He plays with like really good balance. Bernhard Raimann is 6'7". If he gets beat to the inside against a good power rusher, guys like Myles Garrett, the Bosas, Rashawn Gary, which those are some of the best, but that's the NFL. If you're drafting in the first round, you're drafting him to block those guys. And I don't know how he's going to do it because he's going to get beat to the inside because he got beat to the inside on his college tape at the Senior Bowl. And when he does, he topples over, man. So I think there's a lot of issues with him in pass protection. And at 25 years old in September, I don't know if I'm going to be patient enough for that to come along, especially when you're talking about using a first-round pick on him. Now, there's a lot to like with him. He's a phenomenal run blocker. He is a great athlete. If you put him in one of these Shanahan systems, I get it. Like, get him on the move, just clearing pathways in space. That's what gets you excited about Bernhard Raimann. And in those systems, you might be able to protect his disadvantages as a pass protector a little bit better as well. So I will just say that if you are a team and your team, or if you're a fan and your team spends a first-round pick on Bernhard Raimann, it is my opinion that you should hold off on popping the champagne bottles because I have some serious questions about how he's going to look as a day one starter in the NFL, which it looks like he's going to be asked to do that. Then we have my number 5 prospect, who's in a pretty similar boat, Daniel Faalele. Hell, I think both these guys actually came over from Australia. But Falele's 2 years younger, and his physical upside is much higher for me than Bernhard Raimann. Everyone wants to compare Raimann to Jordan Mailata as that raw developmental guy with freaky athleticism. Well, Mailata was only 21 when he came out, and he was a lot bigger than Bernhard Raimann. Daniel Faalele is younger and a lot bigger than Bernhard Raimann. So if you're trying to find that developmental guy, for me, I'd rather throw the dart at Daniel Faalele than Bernhard Raimann. Both these guys have pretty big issues, though, and they're, either one, you're pretty much getting a similar prospect there. And maybe scheme comes into play there because Raymond's more of that move block type. Falele's more kind of like we talked about with Kinnard, where you don't necessarily want him on the move quite as much. So it's not a perfect comparison. I'm rambling. But back to Faalele. This dude is 6'8", 387 pounds. He has 35-plus inch arms. He's a freak. His physical upside is about as good as you're going to get for a tackle prospect, and he can move at that size too. Sometimes guys are this size, and they're undrafted free agent types because they are so slow they can't hang with NFL caliber athletes. That's not Daniel Faalele. I'm not going to act like he has great foot speed or anything, but it is certainly good enough when you are that big and your arms are that long. He has the foot speed and gets enough depth in his kick slides to handle speed around the edge. He will step inside and cut off inside moves. It's just for him a matter of getting more reps, recognizing when to use certain techniques, and then deploying them to get that element of consistency that he's just lacking. So I think he's got upside in pass protection, and not to mention his anchor is just like stupid good. Like, he just isn't worried about losing to power. He can get a little bit top heavy. He'll stop his feet. Again, that's technique stuff that he's going to have to work on. As a run blocker, I love pretty much everything I see from him. Like, he had to have played rugby back in the day, because he just has that like mindset of like, I'm just going to fly off the ball and I'm just going to bury you because I'm 380 pounds and I'm a better athlete than you. And he basically is effective because of that. He was in the Big Ten, and I think he will be at the next level. He is just, his raw strength is remarkable. Like, when he gets his hands on you, forget about it. So I get a little bit more excited about Daniel Falele than I do Bernard Raymond. I don't love either of these prospects. I would say one of them will work out, one of them probably won't, just based on luck and probability. But it's a tough position to find guys with upside like this, so second, third round for me is where I'm looking at these players. First round, though, too early, in my opinion. All right, number 4 is Trevor Penning, who, another guy that's kind of being mentioned in the first round. I can't quite get there with him either. I'm a little bit lower on all these guys, honestly. But he's a good prospect. I think his he's very similar to Bernard Raymond, but I think his pass protection technique is just further evolved. He has a wider set. He has longer arm length. He gets more depth in his kick slides. He uses his arms better, but he's not polished. His technique, there are things that bother me about Trevor Penning. He does struggle to protect his chest at times. He will give up inside moves. He doesn't always use his hands as well as he could. So there's still issues there, but I think Penning's athleticism and ability as a run blocker is as good as Bernard Raymond, if not better as well. He has all of the... he is the definition of a dickhead out there. He had like 16 penalties in his final season, which is like, that's a literal red flag. It's a concerning amount of penalties that he draws. Holding, unnecessary roughness. Like, he's an asshole. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Now, I don't mind drafting an asshole at offensive line, but I just want him to show a little bit more discipline. Like, don't get caught holding as much as well. It's not just the like unnecessary roughness stuff. He's a sloppy, overly physical, fun offensive tackle prospect with really good traits. Do I take that in the first round? If I'm desperate enough, probably, especially in a class here that's not as good, but I don't give him a true first round grade. So those three are kind of in a tier of their own there. And then we have a clear-cut crop of first-round talents. And these guys are all pretty tight. Like, if you get any of these next three guys, I think you're feeling pretty good. Ikem Ekwonu does come in at number 3 for me, which might be a little bit unpopular depending on who you ask. For me, it's just, I think finding a good pass protector adds a little bit more value. It's a little bit more of a difficult skill set to find than the really good run blocker. Which is why Charles Cross will come in ahead of Ikem Ekwonu, but that's going to be a matter of preference and what you feel like you need. You know, if you're a team like San Francisco, or, you know, there's teams that just, and San Fran won't be an opportunity to draft Ikem Ekwonu, but there's teams that, like, they just want that road grader up front that can clear pathways and do it on the move. That's going to be Ikem Ekwonu. He is probably the best run blocking prospect I have ever watched, and I don't say that lightly. I would say he's a better run blocker than even Quentin Nelson was coming out of Notre Dame. So that's high praise. I gave him an A+ run block grade. So, like, this dude, his raw strength, his get off, his mentality, the leverage he plays with, his understanding of just how to demolish guys, it is elite. But he is a work in progress in pass protection. The pass pro is a question mark. I don't want to say a concern. He just doesn't have a lot of good pass pro tape out there. I will say I think he really struggles to cut off inside moves. His like kick slide technique, his hand usage, it's fine. I will say NC State really didn't run a lot of traditional dropbacks, and he's only a sophomore here. So there just isn't a lot of experience there. So you're expecting a learning curve in pass pro is basically what I would say. I think when he's starting at left tackle as a rookie, which I think he will be, you might get that sort of, I would almost say similar to like Andrew Thomas's first season, which he was my number one tackle that year. But I said, like, his offense didn't ask him to run a lot of traditional dropbacks. There's going to be a learning curve there. I think that I draw a lot of parallels in that way to Ikem Ekwonu. So I would say expect some learning curves at tackle, which you don't always get that progression that like Andrew Thomas had. So it's just a question mark in pass pro. He's super strong. He's low to the ground. Like, his anchor's going to be just fine. It's just how does he handle the quickness and some of those more polished style versatile pass rushers at the next level. But he's exciting. I expect him to go in the top 10 of this draft, but I actually have a slightly higher grade on Charles Cross for the pass protection reasons that I mentioned. And I did not expect to like Charles Cross as much as I did. And in fact, in my last mock draft, I had him going, I think, 18th. And after I really got into his film, I was like, that is way too low. He might sneak into like 11 or 12, but man, he is just a machine in pass pro. I did not expect that. And when I was looking for a picture to use for him, I saw an image of him in practice. He's got a sticker on his helmet that says head back, hands up, get depth, and stay square. Like the most basic fundamentals of pass protection that you just don't always see from guys. And he does it so consistently. He's patient in that technique, and it does dividends for him. He's 6'5". He's got great arm length, in my opinion. We're waiting on that measurement at the combine. I'd be stunned if it came in under 34 inches. He's got pop in his hands, and he's just a machine in pass pro. I think you can plug him in at left tackle and expect 10 years of great pass protection from him. I love the Laramie Tunsil comparison. He has like David Bakhtiari upside as a pass protector. Now, the run blocking, I think he's much better with his patience, his technique, and moving backwards than he is going forward. I don't think he has that like dickhead mentality that we talked about with like Penning and Raymond. He doesn't really blow people off the ball. He's not a bad run blocker. He just kind of is going through the motions, and Mississippi State, to be fair, felt like they weren't really asking him to come out of a three-point stance and maul dudes. So that could be the next evolution in his game. But it wasn't really there on his tape. So he can definitely move block. He is a very fluid athlete. I like that about him. You'll see him pull, and when he does get on the move, like, he'll have a little bit of that, chip on his shoulder, like bury dudes in space. But just in general, he wasn't creating a lot of movement off the ball. But God, I don't see a lot of tackle prospects that are just as clean as Charles Cross. And one of the PFF guys was getting roasted because they had him number one in their mock draft. And I'm not going to go that far, but I get it. Like, he is incredibly polished as a pass protector for a sophomore. And the leaps that he took from his freshman year, like, just this guy clearly gets it. Like, he is coachable, committed to his craft, and he's just getting started. So really like Charles Cross. And then number one is Evan Neal. And I think I'm just not going to overthink it with Evan Neal. He's 6'7", 360 pounds. He's really good in pass pro. I think he is going to need to continue to develop with his hands. Like, he's not as good in pass pro as Charles Cross, but he's definitely better than Ikem Ekwonu. He moves way better than anybody should at that size. I think when the combine is done, he's going to be the consensus number one tackle for pretty much everybody because he's nasty, man, athletically speaking. They just don't make him like Evan Neal. He's like some kind of an athletic hybrid of Tristan Wirfs and Mekhi Becton, which is just a demigod. So there's that, and then he's a really good run blocker. Like, he's physical, he plays low, he comes off the ball. He got better as his time went on at Alabama. He's the number one tackle in this class. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the number one overall pick. If you put other guys ahead of him, like, I kind of understand because Cross is a better pass protector, Ekwonu's a better run blocker, Evan Neal's maybe a little bit in between. but there's a chance that Evan Neal could be better than both of them someday. Well, probably not going to be a better run blocker than Ekwonu, because I don't know how many NFL linemen will ever be. But he's a very clean prospect. A little bit of work to do with his hands and his technique, and he's going to be, he's going to be a Pro Bowl level player year in, year out. I do believe that. So there's my top 10 offensive tackles. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I'm curious what you guys think of my rankings, your rankings. Do let me know. Do consider checking out my Patreon as well. You're going to be able to get full write-ups on all these guys we talked about in this draft. You'll see grades and draft ranks for every tackle in this class. So it's patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy. You'll support my channel in the process. If that doesn't interest you, if nothing else, just hit that like button to show your support. And we'll see you guys next. Will be another one of those Fix My Team off-season podcasts, hopefully tomorrow, which will be Friday the 25th. So make sure you subscribe. Come back for that. Appreciate you for watching, and we'll see you then. Peace.